Tokyo, Japan. My name is Gary Verheller, and I'll be your host for what we call the Substance of Living podcast. Today, we'll look at what we call life's lessons. And I hope this will provide you with some insight, maybe even some inspiration to life's challenges. Hello, and welcome to episode 33, entitled Private Investigator, Part 2. In the last episode, I talked about security. And security means being free from danger or threat. And the idea is to limit that as much as possible. How does a security officer do that? Security generally is 75% appearance. 75% appearance. So that means that the security officer should be readily apparent and moving around and being active at random times, in random ways. But what about being a private investigator? Being a private investigator means being 75% unnoticeable. And that can be a challenge. It astounds me when I watch movies and one guy is following another. And the guy never changes his appearance. He never changes his hat or puts on a hat, never changes his coat. It's always the same. And if you're trying to get away from someone and they're following you, change your appearance. They'll be looking for the person with a black hat and you don't have a hat. They'll be looking for a person with glasses and you have sunglasses on. Those simple, small changes can make you more unnoticeable. And that is one thing you need to do as a private investigator. So, you also need to do the unexpected, which means if you're following somebody, you don't stay on the same side of the street, you're on the opposite side of the street. If you're following somebody, you're reading a book as you walk along that you're very engrossed with. You do have to keep up the pace, and at the same time, you're doing something that's unexpected. You would think if somebody's following, they'd be watching all the time. Let me talk about two examples as a private investigator in which I caught bad guys. I was unnoticeable, and what I did was unexpected. The first one is a supermarket. Another private investigator for the company I worked with had this supermarket under surveillance for 30 days, nonstop, no days off. The poor guy was there from 10 o'clock at night to 7 a.m. in the morning. That was 9 hours. That's torturous. And he came to me and he begged me, he said, Gary, please, 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 would you take my shift just for one night? And I said, oh, well, okay. Yeah, I'll take the shift for one night. What I failed to notice was the layout, and I'll never do this again. I failed to do due diligence. I failed to look at the property. I failed to look at the conditions under which I would have to do the surveillance. Well, I simply went there that evening and I had a small little sports car. And it was a large supermarket with this huge parking lot that went up to a main street. On that main street, just on the border of that parking lot, was a bank. And on the other side of the bank was a tree. I parked under that tree right next to the bank. They could hardly see my car. And I had a pair of binoculars, and I was watching. Well, this started about 10 p.m. By 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was about 8 guys their job was to stock the shelves when the store was closed. There was about 8 guys, and all of them were much bigger than me. And they were stocking the shelves, and then about 3 o'clock in the morning, 3 of them came out and started looking all over the parking lot. And I'm watching them. My seat was back. I was watching them with binoculars saying, oh no. Oh, please, no, 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 no. No, 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 don't do this, don't do this. Sure enough, one of them jumped into a pickup truck that was on the side of the supermarket, backed it up to the front doors, lowered the gate to the bed of the truck. The doors opened, And they started loading bags upon bags upon bags of groceries. And I thought, oh, here we go. So I started up my little sports car engine, revved it, hit the bright lights, and jumped from that bank right down that parking lot towards that truck. And I did a 4-wheel drift that right in front of the truck, jumped out of the truck. By this time, all those guys had run inside and locked the door. And I came running up with my badge, and I was pounding on the window saying, "Security from El Paso, open up now or talk to the police. Security, let me bring those people out who were in this truck." And these guys are looking over the shelves. And like, who is this guy? It's really security? Oh my God. And the manager came and I said, "Get these people. I want to see these people that were loading the truck. I want them out here and I want them up against the wall right now." And they came out and they went up against the wall and they were standing up against the wall, and I patted them down and I took their licenses and I thought, what the hell am I going to do now? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. This is long before cell phones. I had no phone. The closest phone was a mile. That's about 1.6 kilometers away. And I thought, man, have I made a mistake? And just then, a police officer drove up. And he said, "What's going on here?" And I explained the situation to him. He immediately took over. Thank the gods. It seemed that somebody driving by saw me going to the bathroom against the tree. And they called the police, and that's how the police. So I was unnoticeable, and what I did was unexpected, but it was foolhardy. I failed to do due diligence. And I learned from that experience. Always know how to communicate to the police. What is the best way to communicate to the police in case of a dangerous situation? But I was lucky. The guys got arrested. And it seems that that supermarket was losing $250,000 worth of food every year. Just this one supermarket. They were loading lobster, filet mignon, champagne, all the expensive stuff onto that truck. And they were caught. The second experience was a used car lot. In the first episode of Private Investigator, I was talking about being a security officer. Well, I was manager, and while I was also doing private investigator duties, sometimes they would ask me to be a manager and oversee an evening shift for all of these car lots that they had. Well, one time I was riding my bike, which was a great way to get around these 7 car lots that were all bunched together. And I could cover a lot of space in a short amount of time and also see a lot too. And it was quiet. People couldn't hear me coming up on them. So I pulled up to this used car lot, and behind the building of the used car lot was a 10-foot, that's about a 3-meter fence with concertina wire, that's the barbed wire on top. Inside that fence with the barbed wire, were cars that had already been sold and were being prepared to deliver to the new owner. These are used cars. I saw a truck backed up to the gate of that compound. And so I parked my bike and I just watched for a couple of minutes, and I saw 2 big guys inside that compound. So I snuck up, I took the keys out of the ignition, and I waited. And they started talking, they were laughing and talking. They came to the gate, they started climbing up this fence. They got up to where they were just stepping over the barbed wire. And I said, "Freeze! Security! You move, you die." And they were, I mean, they were well over 180 centimeters tall. They were big guys. And I said, "Now, one at a time, come down very slowly with your back to me, and then put your face up against the wall with your hands, assume the position up against the wall. I have one of my people on the roof across the street with a high-powered rifle You move, he shoots. I really don't want to have to make out the report. Oh, we're sorry. We're so sorry. Oh my God. Oh, my life is over. Oh my God. And so I patted them down, made sure they didn't have any weapons, and took their wallets and their license, looked at their license, and I stepped back. I was a good 2 meters from them. And I said, now I'm going to signal my guy that everything is okay. But he's still going to be at the ready. And he was a sniper, so please, no sudden moves. And I made a big show of waving my arm. There was nobody over there. So they turned around. I said, all right, guys, what's the story here? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why are you on this property? And he said, well, I just bought the car that's in that compound, and I wanted to show my buddy, and we just came from the nightclub, and we had a couple beers. I guess we were a little drunk, and we thought we'd just jump the fence and take a look at the car. I'm so excited to have a new car. Oh, please, please. We're football players for the University of New Mexico. Please, please, don't. I said, well, the cops have already been called. Let me see what I can do. I'm going to open this office, and then I'm going to open the office of the manager. Now, there are cameras in there, so they'll be watching you. And I know, because I take a picture of that office. Now, I happen to take a picture of that office this evening. I know where everything is. Don't mess with anything. I'll see if I can abort the call to the police. So I put them in, massive guys, put them in, closed the door, got on the phone, help, 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 called the police. Police came, and they said, what do you want to do? You want us to arrest these guys? I said, no, I don't want you to arrest them. This is what I want you to do. I want you to put them in handcuffs, hands behind their back, handcuffs, put them in the patrol car, and then come talk to me. And I'll look like I'm pleading their case to you. We can talk about baseball or something, but I want them to have the impression that I'm doing my best to get them out of this. I said, okay, Gary. So we did this, and finally I said, okay, the police officer brought them out of the car, took the handcuffs off, and I said, gentlemen, these officers are kind enough not to press charges, and we won't press charges. The security company I work with won't press charges, and the new car ownership here and the used car ownership will not press charges. You tell every one of your people, we have security here. We are watching. Go someplace else. Oh, we're so thank you. Oh, thank you. I can keep my scholarship now. Thank you so much. Thank you. So, what did I learn? I learned first to challenge myself. And what do I mean? Well, you see, I'm not a big guy. I'm not violent. I'm not physically imposing. What I decided to do was to use my mind. And FDR said, challenge yourself. If you're offered a job, take it and see and learn from it and find a way to do it. And I think that's a great idea. So I was offered this job. I needed the money. I decided, well, I thought security, me? Well, I'll try. And I became very successful at it. We never lost a car in the 7 years I worked with them. And we caught a number of bad guys, as I've told you. So that taught me to challenge myself to be better. I learned that security is being essentially an adult babysitter. And if the babysitter is watching, usually the baby doesn't do something wrong. So security is 75% appearance. Private investigation is 75% unnoticeable. And I look forward to sharing some ideas with you again in the next episode. In the meantime, thank you very much. Thank you for joining us today for the Substance of Living podcast. If you'd be kind enough to consider subscribing, you can contact us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or connect on Twitter. Join us again next time for what I hope will help you navigate life.